Good evening all, welcome to another TRSB Sports podcast. Myself, Shane B. Quite pleased to have on tonight one of our regular guests, Jack the Punk Kid Hughes. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. I've had a bit of an easy day today. I have a day off and I was expected to do some gardening, but due to unforeseen rain coming, I got away with the duty. So for myself, not a bad day. So yeah, not too bad. But pleasure to have you on. Obviously, what I wanted to speak about was the amazing fight that took place at York Hall last Saturday. Obviously, it was the Southern Area Superfly title fight between yourself and Paul Roberts. I mean, fantastic fight. It's going to go down as a classic. It'll be a fight that I remember. I'll be able to tell people about it, my kids, about the boxing. Oh, this was a fight. This was a cracking fight. Yeah. Controversial. Lots of opinions as to sort of how the fight panned out. I had my opinion. Someone else had an opinion. I think the only opinion that really matters is the judges at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Judges have called it a draw. You two fighters have gone in there, all guns blazing. You've done your job, down to judges to do yours. What was your feeling of the fight and sort of how things panned out?
Like, I thought I did just enough to nick it, in my opinion. Like, I thought I won the early rounds, and then I thought that Paul come on very strong in the middle rounds, but they were still very close rounds. And then I thought he had his most successful round was the 7th, but it was when he hit me with a body shot and he hurt me to the body. But then I thought, round 8, 9 and 10, I come on again very strong. So I thought I nicked the first 3, not nicked, I thought I won the first 3 rounds. And then I thought I definitely won the last 2. And then like the 8th round was close. And then, the middle rounds were a bit 50-50. So I thought I did, just enough to nick it. But, the ref, as you said, the only person that mattered was the judge, and the ref scored it a draw. And then I've watched it back since on YouTube, and I scored it to myself. I think it was like 97, 95. So I gave it to myself by 2 points. And it was basically just how I said. I thought I started strong, and I thought I finished strong, and I thought that would have been enough to get me the victory on the night. Especially with it being, on my show. So normally, I mean, I kind of hate to say it, but anyone that's a boxing fan does know that the home fighters do tend to get favoured. So I thought I definitely done enough. And the more people I've spoke to, don't get me wrong, it is like real 50-50. There are some people that said they thought I won. There are some that say Paul, and there are some that say a draw was a fair result. But the more people that I've spoken to, the more people tend to be saying that I thought you did want more than enough to win the fight. But it is what it is. It was a very close fight, and I know if you've got Paul on here, Paul was probably going to say exactly the same. He'd probably be like, I felt like I was hard done by. I thought I did enough. But that's what happens when it's a close fight. Both fighters are going to say they did enough to win. But that's my views on it. I do feel like I've been a bit hard done by, but it is what it is. We will just have to go again.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's where like the boxing game is so subjective. It's like from where my point of view, I was going 2 rounds in favour to Paul. Someone else who was on another side of the ring was completely opposite. It was 2 rounds to you. I spoke to someone who was up in the gallery. They had a different version, and depending on what side of the gallery you were on, there were so many different versions. So I mean, it is subjective, and it is just one of those things. But from the first round was sort of like I was watching it as like the both of you was feeling each other out. Second round, early doors, you got him for 1-2, a left and a hard right to the head, and he was back on the ropes. The thing that surprised me was he bounced straight back and give a good 1-2 himself. I turned around to Tom at this point. I said, this is not a one-way fight, I'm telling you from the beginning. And did it feel like that in there then?
Yeah, no, it was a hard fight, probably the hardest of my career, especially because I was cut really bad, really early on, and like most people probably don't know, I literally fought the whole fight with one eye, pretty much, because I had just blood just leaking into my eye, and it was the weirdest experience I've ever had to deal with in my life. It was literally like I was blind. It was like I've never, when you see it in the movies and you see, you know, like, and it's the camera angle and it's meant to be their eyes and it's like red. It was nothing like that. So weird. It was like blurry and yellow, and I was like, what? I was like, what is going on? And obviously, I kept having to dab my eye. And I remember when he had his good round, I remember coming back to the corner, and Kieran said to me, he was like, whatever you fucking do not dab your eye again, because it's showing weakness. So then I just remember having blood in my eye, and I was having to go like this and trying to be as like discreet as possible, trying to get the blood out of my eye. And yeah, it was just a real hard fought fight. And it definitely, obviously it wasn't, it was no way any means like, you know, no one had the better the whole way through. It was very 50-50. So like with the result, even though I said I feel hard done by, in a way you can't really argue it, because it was close. And as you said, wherever you were sitting, everyone had a different viewing of it. And that's why sometimes it's quite hard when, you know, Southern area level, you only get the one judge, and the judge is the ref. So imagine having to ref and judge a fight like that. It's so hard. Like there should always, every title fight, in my opinion, should have 3 judges. And if there was 3 judges, I think we would have seen a winner that night. I'm not saying it would have been me, but I think we would have had a winner. But it is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I think for what you said for title fights, definitely, I think it should be judges. Let the ref the match and take care of the actual boxing event, and let the judges score it come the end. Because, like you say, we probably would have got a score one way or the other. Sometimes you think to yourself, maybe the judge has got it. Do you mean he's dealing with a fight, and he get to a point where he doesn't want to call a winner because it's. Do you mean? Yeah, the judges, they probably would go, yeah, Jack won, no, Paul won. Yeah. We would have had a result. In relation to the cut, how did that come about? And what round was it?
I think it was either the second or the third. I actually had, on the night, I had 3 cuts. I had one on my eyebrow here, which has got 2 stitches. I've got one up here, which has got 1 stitch. And I have one on the back of my head. And they was all from headbutts. So I think the one at the back of my head might have been an elbow.
Right.
But they were not, obviously none of them was intentional. That was just like, it was just mine and Paul's style, where Paul falls in quite a lot, and at the same time I'm very aggressive, and at the same time I fall in a lot as well. So, you know, we were both just going in for an attack, falling in and just clashing heads constantly. And obviously, lucky for Paul, he had no cuts, and unlucky for me, I ended up getting 3. But yeah, they was all accidental head clashes.
In relation to the preparation of thing, obviously you got the time out to do the preparation. Physically, you'd say you was in the best shape for that fight at that point?
Oh yeah, I was in amazing shape, and I think you could see, like, on the scales I looked good, and then coming into the fight I looked good. And obviously me and Paul both did the 10 rounds at an extremely high pace, you know, and a very, very hard fought fight. So, you know, we were both clearly in great shape, and everything clearly went well for both of us in camp. So, you know, I mean, both of us may not have got the result we wanted, but I don't think there'd be any excuses saying that, oh, this could have gone better and that could have gone better in camp, because clearly we were both in great shape and we both put on a great performance.
Yeah, I spoke to Paul after the event, and he said the same thing. He said, I think he said he was frustrated that the result didn't go his way, but it was just the same way that you was frustrated the result didn't go against your way. Also, he stated to himself, he said, like, the camp went really well for himself. He said he couldn't have argued in relation to the camp and what he went through training wise. In relation to, I think there was a question that Tom put to the both of you when he had you on both on the face-off, and I think he said to you something along the lines of, in relation to records, who do you think should win the fight? And I think at that point you said, well, if you looked at records alone, you'd probably say myself. Did he surprise you in that fight? Because obviously he had a 3-3 or something. Did he come as a bit of a surprise?
He did actually, yeah, he did. He was a much better boxer than I thought. You know, when I look at his record now after sharing a ring with him, I do look at some of the people he's lost to, and I'm just looking at them like, how did he lose to them? Especially in his last fight against Shoei. I mean, you know, I watched that a couple of times, and I thought Shoei won every single round. and sharing the ring with him, I was just, I'm just like, how he must have had a real bad night that night. Like, I just don't understand it. And yeah, and his record, obviously we all do say records are for DJs, but some of the people that he's lost to, I'm just looking at it now and thinking like, how has he got such a bad record on him? But yeah, he did really shock me. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, we saw another Southern Area title fight maybe last month. I think it was Jamie Robertson and Billy Allerton.
Yeah,
and this fight between the two of you, I'll put it on par with their fight. Their fight was an absolute cracker, and I would have to put this one alongside it because it was an awesome event. And sometimes I think if you look at some of these small hall fights now, it's quite good to see that how competitive it is when we're actually getting to finals. They are good fights, and I think it surprised me in respect, because sometimes I was going to small hall fights and things were a bit one-sided. Now the fights that are getting matched up seem to be really good fights. In relation to going forward, it's a draw. Both of this, neither of you have come away with a loss in this one. So the obvious question is rematch, and is that something that's already been discussed? Can it happen? What's the score?
Yeah, I think it's such an easy fight to make for both of us. It's not been discussed yet, but if I was a betting man, I'm pretty confident that both of our next fights are going to be a rematch, probably for the Southern Area title, or maybe even an English, because I think the English title is actually vacant at the moment. So we could push for the English if need be, but I mean the Southern Area is there for both of us, and there's not really many people around to fight for the Southern Area. So after the fight we just had, I'm sure we would be first in line for another crack at it. And so far I'm actually the only person to ever fight for the Southern Area title at my weight class, and I've put on 2 absolute crackers both times for it. So it's kind of it's a really weird, like, prestigious thing for me, because if it was not for me, that belt never would have been fought for in the whole history of the super flyweight division being around. I've made that title kind of like what it is right now. I brought that title into play. I was the first person ever to fight for it. I stole the show in my first fight for it, put on an absolutely incredible fight with Ricky Little in like a small hall classic. And then for the second time it's ever been fought for again, I was the one that was fighting for it. And again, I've put on an absolute another small hall classic for it. So, I feel like I've made the super flyweight title what it is, like I've put the history behind it. I've put the prestigiousness behind it, and I've put on the absolute classics on every single show for it. So, I do in a way feel like that title should be mine, and like it's destined to come home with me one day. But if someone did offer me an English, I would definitely take the English for it as well, though.
Yeah, so that's a bit weird. So from my point of view, obviously I've just seen 2 guys like go hammer and tong for this title fight. It's a draw. For me, it just would seem obvious that should be the next fight again. So I can't work out. So can somebody potentially jump in and 2 other fighters potentially go for this title, and you and Paul not have a shot at this? Can that work?
It can. It just depends really, like who is made mandatory for it and so on and so forth. But as far as I was aware beforehand, I was mandatory for the Southern Area. So I don't see why that would be, obviously after what just happened, I don't see why that would be any different.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure right now there is literally only 3 people that can fight for the title anyway. And one of them's only had like a handful of fights. And then obviously it's just me and Paul. So, again, it is like 99% sure that it would be me and Paul. I don't see anyone. I mean, it would at least be one of us, because there's only 3 people that are eligible to fight for it anyway. But yeah, I don't think anyone else would be in front of the queue for us. But what I was just saying is that obviously the English title is vacant as well. So it's a more prestigious title. So if the opportunity come up, I'd like to fight for the English. But as I said, I'm like 99% sure that we would be first in line for the Southern Area anyway.
And obviously you mentioned earlier you was the home fighter this time around, and you sort of like touched on it a little bit, that maybe it seemed that sometimes the home fighter will get the advantage. So let's say, for instance, you have that fight again at York Hall, or the fight was to be held at York Hall. It goes to points. You get the win. You'd be made Southern Area title winner. You've obviously you fulfilled an ambition, a dream. Would you be happy to have that Southern Area title fight somewhere else? So let's say, for instance, the Plymouth Guildhall, which is more in his neck of the woods. Would you be happy to have that fight on in his manner, for instance? And for instance, if you won that away from home, would it almost be a bigger thing doing it away from home than doing it on your home patch?
Yeah, I think if anyone, anyone that wins the title away from home, it's always a bigger achievement than winning it at home, because of obviously the stuff we just, spoke about with the home advantage and so on. So I think it's always a bigger achievement to win titles away. But as far as like fighting anyway, like I'm just one of them guys. I'm just a fighting man. So wherever you tell me I'm gonna fight, I'll fight, and whoever you tell me who I'm fighting, I'll fight them. It doesn't really bother me. I don't really have fear that way to go into someone's backyard and so on and so forth. But this is all just down to promotional teams and like purse bids and who wins purse bids and so on. So that's just all down to our managers. It's not really down to me to pick and choose like where I fight and kind of who I fight. That just kind of as I just said, it's just something that our two managers will speak about, sort out, go to purse bids, and whoever wins the purse bid gets control of the fight and where they put it and so on and so forth.
And then what are the goals and aspirations for the next 18 months? What is it that Jack's really after?
I think I touched on this like the first time I ever come on here. Like, well, I would be I could retire happy winning just the Southern Area title alone, but my dream and ambition is to be one day hopefully be the Commonwealth champion, which I could achieve this year, especially if I get a Southern Area or an English title. That could be my next fight potentially looking at. So that's the goal and ambition, is to win a title, whether that be the Southern Area or the English, and then push on hopefully to the Commonwealth title and then win the Commonwealth title. but as I said, really anything after the Southern Area is just a bonus. That is the ultimate goal. But by the end of the year, hopefully I'll be Commonwealth champion.
And obviously York Hall, then we had the fight, you had the draw, we had sort of everything that come after the fight. But then it was nice to hear that you had some good news or some news about yourself and your partner. Yeah. Was it right that you got engaged to your partner?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we got engaged actually straight after. It was the plan was obviously to win and do it in the middle of the ring. Oh. And then obviously we got the draw, and Steve actually asked me did I still want to do it. Looking back on it, if I had the chance again, I would have done it. Right. But at the time, emotions were high, and I was just a bit like, I'll leave it to myself. Which, looking back on it, I'm actually quite upset about. I didn't do it, but it is what it is. Heat in the moment and all that. But yeah, afterwards with me and my team, we was just backstage, and I got the ring, got down on one knee, and now I'm got a fiance and soon to be married man.
Brilliant. But obviously she's a soulmate. She's someone who's been there. She supported you through like thick and thin. Do you mean it's like they say, behind every great man there's a great woman, and you've obviously got a great woman there that you've sort of like you've got hold of, and it's good to hear, because she was a lovely lady. She's looking after you all night, and you can see she looks after you all the time anyway. But
yeah, she does.
That was just a nice end to the evening, really. Do you mean it was like a good note to go home on and think, yeah, do you know what I mean? That was all cool. So I might as well talk to you while I got you on the show now. Your fight wasn't the only cracker that evening. You then had the Woods and Conlon fight. Did you get an opportunity to see that over the weekend, the rerun of it?
I've seen the highlights, and I've seen all the knockdowns and the knockout, but I haven't actually seen the fight. Once I'm kind of one of them people, like once the fight's happened, I won't really go back and watch it, because there's no like you just don't get the same thrill of watching it like you do when it's live and stuff. So it's not really my thing to go back and watch them, but the knockout was absolutely devastating. Really, really was. That he was like out cold.
Yeah, it was weird. It's like, do you mean I heard what the result was, and when you watched it, when you see it sort of like from the beginning to the end, there was part of me that was wanting. I didn't want it to go to the judges. Do you mean? I was relieved. I wasn't relieved that he got banged and went out of the ring. I was relieved that one of the boxers was able to rely on himself rather than relying on the judges, because obviously after the Catterall event, I just wanted to see a boxing match finish and complete, no controversy. We got a score, we got a result. So yeah, no, that was all good. But I would just say, Jack, it's been a pleasure having you on this evening. As I say, really, it was just a case about catching up with yourself. Really wanted to find out your opinion about what went on sort of over the fight, over your call. Great to have your opinion. It'd be great to see the rematch. Do you mean I'd love to be there again and watch it, because it was such a spectacle first time around. Even better if we can get it for an English title. But anything you want to say to any of the sponsors, anyone that's helped you over to get to where you are so far?
Yeah, if I can just shout out my 3 sponsors. We've got Rod from Forrestal and Son, who's sponsored me 2 times in a row now, and he's become like a good friend of mine as well. And he brought a massive crowd down with him, brought his son down with him to watch me fight, and they've become kind of like a little family of mine now, which is just like really nice. And then I had my sponsor Guy Davis, who was the one that paid for me to have the time off, and again, just like without him, that fight might have not as been as an absolute spectacle that it was, because I wouldn't have had the time to really put everything, like my heart and soul, into the whole training camp and so on. So massive thank you to him. And my last sponsor, Steve Porter, who used to basically pretty much live with me and work for my family. He's done really well for himself now, and he's sponsored me I think 2 or 3 times now as well. And he come in and really helped me out, to get the last couple ticket sales all done and everything. So yeah, without them 3, it wouldn't have been possible to have like such an absolutely barnstorming fight like that, because them 3 were the backbone of me to just have a peaceful, non-stressful camp and put everything on the line that night. So thank you to them 3.
Brilliant. Well, like I say, Jack, absolute pleasure speaking to you. I'm glad Tom let me talk to you today rather than we discuss why I talk to other people. But pleasure speaking to you today, Jack. And you enjoy the rest of your evening, yeah?
Thank you, mate. You too.
Cheers, mate. Bye.